Dan,
Oh, yes. Hello. I'm here.
you like music, don't you?
I mean, on occasion, I enjoy. You know what I like more than music?
Tell me.
Is poetry.
Yeah. I like a good story song.
Well,
Like
here's the problem,
Queensryche.
Here's the problem, fellers.
Yeah.
What we're going to talk about today has no music and certainly no poetry to it.
Ah, shit.
Well, why did you
where you
interrupt
guys are
this
headed.
very important conversation, Dan and I?
We'll get back to it then.
Well, we were just talking. We were going to start talking about Queensryche, and I was going to start from the very beginning of their whole catalog. But fine. What do you want
until
to
you
talk
get
about?
to Silent Lucidity? Is that their song?
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Oh yeah, that's the
Oh,
that's
is that
how
their
that's what you
song?
bring it home with.
That's right.
Yeah. But go ahead, Doug. Let's talk about what you want to talk about.
Oh, fine. Fine.
You interrupt our side project of the Queensryche pod. Go ahead.
Queen's talk.
Reich Talk. No, that's a different.
Nope, that's our side
very
project.
Yikes.
Well, the idea for my segment today comes from listener Julie, who asked if I could break down the Song of Solomon like we did Leviticus and Revelation in episodes past.
Oh
boy.
And I just have to ask listener Julie, what did I ever do to you? I mean,
What do you mean? That's the sexy one, right?
well, this is far better than...
Julie's sending you some messages.
That might
maybe.
be... Boy, I missed that. I mean,
This is how people who joke about the Bible hit on each other, I guess. So.
This is better than having to do research on some shitty Mormon history or a bloody end to a cult somewhere. But just like having all of your body hair waxed off by an angry Belarusian is better than being burned alive, that doesn't mean it's pleasant.
What do you have against being burned alive?
Individual results may vary.
I was actually thinking about this. I was going to save it for Valentine's Day to be a little more topical, but with the unspeakably terrible news out there in the world right now, I figured we could all enjoy the unique escapism that is making fun of the Bible.
Yes.
So today we will pick apart all of the intentional and unintentional double entendre that is the Song of Solomon. So we'll get into this, but this fucking book, it's like your grandmother trying to describe porn to you in real time without using any sexually explicit adjectives. Clocking in at a merciful 8 chapters, it adheres very well to Uncle Doug's first rule of the Bible: shorter is better.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is a weird book, but on the scale of weird that most of the rest of the Bible aspires to, it's actually pretty tame.
Yeah.
It's unique in the Bible in that there is no mention of God, no laws, no wisdom, just a whole lot of not-so-sexy talk.
Yeah, buddy.
It's mostly a conversation between two lovers, a male of which is thought to be possibly Solomon, or not, depending on who you talk to, because it was probably written centuries after Solomon existed, if he existed.
Right.
Its inclusion in the modern Bible has been a little problematic. It's much more important in Jewish tradition than it is in Christianity. It is read on whole during the Sabbath, during Passover, and some verses are read on Shabbat Eve. So
Really?
in Jewish tradition, it's actually kind of meaningful. It's really meaningful in Kabbalah. But in Christian tradition, it's really kind of been a problem. Most Jews claim it's an allegory of the relationship between God and Israel, and Christians claim it's an allegory of the relationship between Christ and the church.
Now hold on just a little bit.
I know where you're going.
I know a little bit about the history of God and Israel. You know? And it has not been a love song.
Now, wait a minute.
Exactly.
The thing that I know about the history of God and Israel is somebody's getting fucked. So, frankly, it seems right.
That's one way of looking at it.
It was a poor pairing.
Well, exactly. Like you said, Uncle Mark, the entirety of the Old Testament, especially, God is ranting and raving about how he wants to do harm to Israel.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make sense that in one 8-chapter book in the middle of the Bible he would change his mind.
Right.
I guess unless he was bipolar, but you know.
But what other evidence could we possibly supply for that theory?
Except for the rest of the Bible.
Right.
And then this is a very sexually charged book. So if the relationship between God and his church is sexually charged, I guess that makes sense too now that I think about it. So if this book was meant to describe a relationship between the creator and its creation, it definitely does not say so in the book at all. And if there is some complex and beautiful poetry going on here, it is most definitely lost in translation. So, we will be returning to the King James Version of the Bible for today's reading.
Okay.
Because just
Feels
like all those
coming
times,
home. Yeah.
just like all those times you respond to a drunk text from an ex, I can't quit you, KJV. I looked at a couple other versions, but no one manages to capture how much sex must have sucked in Bronze Age Palestine, quite like the KJV. So, here we go. Chapter 1 begins with the immortal words of Anne Elk, the Song of Songs, which is Solomon's. And right out of... one person's laughing.
Yeah, I got that.
Right out of the gate, we're into the good stuff. Quote, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for thy love is better than wine, because the savor of thy good ointments, thy name is an ointment poured forth. Therefore do the virgins love thee.
I think there were a lot of really dry skin issues and a lot of rashes. Ointment is incredibly important in these narratives.
I feel like all you have to do is update it with you change the word ointment to Axe body spray, and you've got the modern version.
So, also, every time I say the word lover, I want you to hear it in the voice of Will Ferrell in that SNL skit with Rachel Dratch.
Oh, yes.
Lover. All right, verses 5 and 6 are the reason you will never hear this book quoted in a manifesto on 8chan. Quote, I am black but comely, and look not upon me, for I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Yeah, that's all standard stuff so far. I love it.
Right.
Everything is up to snuff.
Yeah. There are a lot of comparisons in this book, with each person comparing their lover to, or some anatomical feature of their lover to something wholly unrelated. Like, for example, I have compared thee, O my love, to a company of horses. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Strong, I guess.
Wow.
I do remember this passage from this chapter when I was a kid. Quote, a bundle of myrrh is my well-beloved unto thee. He shall lie all night betwixt my breasts.
Yes.
Yes.
Myrrh. I want to be a bundle of myrrh.
Did you get a weird Mormon Bible boner from that? Because that's as close as we were ever going to come to pornography.
Mark, every one of my boners was weird back then. Chapter 2 is mostly platitudes between the two lovers, but there are a couple of references you'll recognize. Verse 1 says, I am the rose of Sharon and the lily of the valleys.
Okay.
Verse 12, quote, the flowers appear on the earth. The time of the singing of birds is come, and the voice of the turtle is heard in our land. So exactly how long has Mitch McConnell been in Congress?
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing as beautiful and poetic as the voice of the turtle.
Of a turtle.
Although, can I just say, actually, that just to appease the pedants out there, turtle in the King James Version usually referred to a turtle dove.
I know, but
I know.
It's way better.
It's better if it's a turtle.
It is better if it's a turtle.
No, the judges say it's better if it's a turtle. Go on.
And the ruling has been made. Okay.
In verse 15 we get, quote, take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes. Now, this book comes well after the book of Judges, which features the exploits of Samson that you two talked about in episode 21.
Yeah.
Terrific idiot.
But apparently foxes in biblical times were either a petty nuisance or a potential weapon of mass destruction.
Yes. I will say this, though. I do have tender grapes. I know what that feels like, so I want to keep foxes away from them.
This is the book for you, Uncle Dan.
Especially in this heat.
Yeah, exactly. Again, the Bible's infatuation with birds, foxes, and ointments was not something I remember being taught in church.
But it does seem like it should be the emphasis of every Christian church in the world.
Right. Chapter 3 begins with our young, horny protagonist unable to locate her lover, causing her to wander the streets and ask the local police if they have seen him. This puts a big hole in the story, because a black woman actively approaching the police for help? I don't think so.
Yeah. It was a different time.
Yeah, right. Eventually, she finds her lover and drags him back into her mother's bedroom, the very room she was conceived in, to fuck him.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
If a seemingly drunk person finds you on the street and tries to drag you into the bedroom where they were conceived, let me tell you from experience, get the fuck out. Okay?
It works out 4 out of 5 times.
Once bitten, twice shy. Okay, suddenly the narrative goes on to describe her lover and his bed. He is perfumed with myrrh, frankincense, and all the powders of the merchant, which, and this is true, are the exact ingredients of the aforementioned Axe body spray.
By the way, if you want, remember that we are sponsored this week by Merchant Powders, so please.
That's right.
Please go to our website to find a place where you
Merchant powders.
A portal to buy some.
For all your stink needs.
Merchant powders. It's the burning. It's the itching.
She goes on to describe his bed, which is made of the cedars of Lebanon. The bedposts are silver and gold.
Ooh, gold!
Oh, no. This is a tacky motherfucker, whoever this guy is.
Yeah, exactly. And the sheets are purple. The bed is
And he
surrounded
smells
by...
like curry.
I know.
Actually, you know what? Sheets are purple. That's a big deal because purple was the rarest of the dyes. So
Right.
So what we're talking about is a very expensive bed.
We're talking about a pretty, over-the-top bed.
She's with a playa.
Trumpian bed.
Exactly. And it's surrounded by 60 armed guards because her lover apparently was a West Coast rapper from the mid-1990s.
Right.
So, now these 60 guards, quote, all hold swords, being expert in war, every man hath his sword upon his thigh of fear in the night. Today we call that bukkake.
Hey-o.
He takes over the narrative in chapter 4 and begins describing her beauty. Now, depending on your mood, he is either trying and failing to put her unparalleled beauty into words, or he is accurately describing the monster from the end of the movie The Thing. Because here's the description. Her eyes are like those of a bird. Her hair is like a flock of goats. Her teeth are like two recently shorn sheep.
What? Her teeth?
The sides of her face are like pomegranates. Her neck looks like an armory.
What?
And her breasts are like two gazelles. Her mouth and tongue are like milk and honey, and she smells like Lebanon.
Okay. I mean, great.
I'm sure Lebanon smells wonderful, but the rest of that is a nightmarish chimera exactly from The Thing.
Doesn't that just put you in the mood?
Ooh, she got a great set of gazelles.
I know. And the thing is, there are things you could use to describe breasts
Or teeth.
two horned, like, grass-eating mammals.
Right.
Yeah, or
In
teeth.
fairness, gazelles are perky.
And fast, I guess. I don't know much about breasts, guys.
Yes.
All right.
Speed is what you're going for when you're going for breasts.
Luckily, two of the three uncles are aficionados.
I'm looking for a fast tit. Okay? That's what I'm in the market for here. I don't care about your pomegranates or your sheep teeth. I want a nimble tit.
Speedy bosom.
Yes.
Okay, finally, and for the rest of this chapter, we get some sexy talk with our male lover saying things like, quote, awake, O north wind, and come thou south, blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out. Let my beloved come into his garden and eat his pleasant fruits.
How can a teenager get through this? How could a teenage kid get through this fucking book?
It's not.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the J.C. Penney catalog of the Bible.
Yeah, the Penthouse Forum really sucked in this iteration.
Well, it's also just so hilarious. Like the metaphors, aside from being terribly bad and not attractive, are just hilarious.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Come blow on my garden. Come on.
So, hey, uncles.
Okay.
Do you ever wish that Pornhub came with a scent feature?
Nope.
No,
Definitely not.
100% zero no.
The guys who wrote this book sure wish it did. There is a near constant description of how his lover smells. And what does she smell like? Well, spikenard and saffron, calamus and cinnamon with all the trees of frankincense, myrrh and aloes with all the chief spices.
Yeah.
So I am sure all those things smell good in isolation, but I can't speak to what synergy is achieved by mixing them all together in the desert heat.
I mean, I've eaten Indian food. I think I know what that smells like.
I think I know what it smells like the next day.
Yeah, exactly. She smells like a vindaloo. Which is very fragrant, but in a meal. Not so much a lover, methinks.
It's gazelle coconut korma.
With pomegranate and sheep teeth.
So chapter 5 transfers the narrative back to her perspective, and what is maybe the most accurate part of the Bible I have ever read. The moment the sex is over, he is out of there. She wakes up and can't find him, so she once again takes to the streets to retrieve him. She once again approaches the cops, and this time they immediately beat her and rob her. So
first of all,
she might be black after all.
I like that for some reason the cops seem to be the best authority on this dude's whereabouts. Like, what's that backstory? Why do the cops know so much about this guy?
Well, it also feels a little like, I mean, we've all seen episodes of the show Cops where this lady's like, my boyfriend is missing. He was in the bed and now he's gone, and I think the aliens got him, or maybe I think some other people might have done something.
Exactly. This book reads like the transcript of Cops in Albuquerque.
This woman is on. This woman has been smoking her myrrh. Is what's happening.
So she gets beat up. She gets robbed. She then goes on. That kind of ends. Then she goes on to describe him, and I swear to God, if I didn't know better, I would think she was describing C-3PO. His hands are gold and beryl. His belly is bright ivory overlaid with sapphires, and his legs are marble pillars upon sockets of fine gold.
Okay.
Yeah, that's C-3PO.
Forget about helicopters in the Book of Revelation. C-3PO's in the Song of Solomon.
And he is well versed in over 6 million forms of communication.
As we all know, C-3PO is a very fragrant and aggressive lover. Well known to the police as well.
Yes, and
Chapter 6 is kind of a mess of shifting perspectives. First, it is the daughters of Zion lamenting that she cannot find her lover. Then she points out that he's going to call. Totally, he'll call, right? He wouldn't just tap it and bounce, right? He goes on to give another description of her beauty and fails. And then all of the 60 queens and the 80 concubines and virgins go on to describe her beauty. Where do they come from? Fuck you.
Shut up.
So,
well, I mean, if it is Solomon, he had concubines and brides to spare.
Exactly.
So not a problem.
So, however, listen to how they describe her in verse 10. Quote, "Who is she that looketh forth as the morning, fair as the moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners?" That's pretty good. Like, it's better than having sheep teeth and pomegranate head.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it sounds a little scary, but it's okay.
She goes on to say, quote, "I went down into the garden of nuts to see the fruits of the valley."
She can come to my garden and
What
nuts.
I love, do you guys know this? I get emails about this, that there are young Mormon kids that listen to our podcast in seminary.
Oh my God.
What?
Yes, there are young Mormon kids. There's more than a couple that have said they listen to this pod, which, first of all, that gives me fucking life. But
yes,
also, how do they get through some of these segments? You guys write and tell us.
Yeah, I mean, from now on, I'm going to call every scrotum a garden of nuts.
Yep.
Yep.
Because you talk about every scrotum all the time.
It's kind of my thing.
It is
if I'm
kind
known
of
for
thing.
something,
Yeah.
it's all my scrotum talk. Chapter 7 is one long drunk text about how hot she is. Again, her boobs are either gazelles or a cluster of grapes.
A cluster.
Closer. I mean, grapes.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
I think we're on the right track.
If your breasts are a cluster of grapes, you need to get to the doctor.
Yeah.
Her eyes are fish pools, and apparently she has a rather large nose. So,
oh, well, that's well, I mean, she has to smell all of the things that she smells.
all the ointments.
Various and sundry.
this brings us mercifully to chapter 8, which is a weird chapter. It starts with the female lover wishing that her lover was like her brother because he has sucked on the breasts of her mother.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I have to go to therapy now.
Yeah, really. She goes on to say, quote, she would...
Although that is an entire section of Pornhub, I will say.
I totally-
that is its own. That has its own section right
Exactly.
there.
She goes on to say that she would cause thee to drink of spiced wine of the juice of my pomegranate. Mm-hmm. So,
Yeah, I think we know.
also a
we know
Pornhub
what
category.
That's a reference to.
You're just getting your antioxidants, and I don't think that's a bad idea.
No, I will have to say, since you're in chapter 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite scriptures as a young devious little Mormon was 8 verse 8, which I would send to which I would tease my sister with, because it is something about, we have a little sister and she hath no breasts.
Yeah.
What shall we do for our sister? And blah blah blah.
no.
Anyway,
What should we do for our sister in the day when she shall be spoken for?
yeah.
Like,
Aw,
what?
She doesn't have any boobies,
Well-
so I guess she's worthless.
I know.
Oh, she's
Throw her
unsellable as
away.
a child bride. Is that it?
That's
Wow.
right. Yep, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Thanks for the morality, Bible.
There are a couple really pretty lines peppered here and there in this chapter. Quote, "For love is strong as death, jealousy is cruel as the grave, and many waters cannot quench love, neither can the floods drown it." So that's nice.
Yeah. Okay.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing wraps up with the two lovers calling to each other to make haste, and that is the end of that. So, just a little coda. The book itself has a pretty profound effect on our culture. Inspiring artists from Bach to Toni Morrison to John Steinbeck to Kate Bush. Most of the interest, I think, is in the fact that for 8 merciful chapters, the Bible is actually focusing on 2 people who care about each other.
Right. Yes.
I mean, it's a weird relationship, but yes, it's not very traditional.
It's a little dysfunctional and perhaps overpowering olfactorily.
Yeah.
The police are obviously responding to their house frequently.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And boy, does that place stink.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's 8 chapters. There's no judgment. There's no condemnation. There's just 2 people really in love. And there's the Song of Solomon.
Well, and we should point out that as I don't know if you guys heard this, but growing up Mormon, this was the one that this whole book was the one that Joseph Smith said was the uninspired book of the Bible.
Right.
Really?
Which is ironic because this book was written for him.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That really? I didn't realize he said that.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
wonder-
nobody participates in gazelles like he did.
I wonder what the point of keeping it in was, Doug. I mean,
Well,
what
that's the problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
every time we discover something new in science, we go out there and we reprint all the science textbooks.
yeah.
Every time something in the Bible is shown to be either, counterproductive like this or downright evil, they leave it in. They can't take it out.
Are you saying that the Nicene group, what are they called? The guys
council.
in the
Yeah.
Council of Nicaea, are you saying that they got something wrong? Because how dare you?
Hot take.
Right?
Yeah. Well, this is a first.
Yeah,
Cracked
exactly.
it
No-
wide open, fellas. There is something wrong with the Bible. Can't believe it. So I'm glad we finally found it. And
Yeah,
it's
well-
that there is love. So,
Right, yeah, exactly. It is the existence of pleasurable sex.
well, with that smelly nonsense over, let's move on.